right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone and where you're signing in from today. We're so glad you're here. Welcome to our virtual program today. This is specifically for prospective students and their families. I'm Nikki Barron. I'm an Associate Dean of Admission, and I'm also a Hamilton College alum. I'll be your moderator for the program today, and I'm really lucky to be joined by 3 members of our community. We really look forward to sharing our insight into the Hamilton community with all of you today. Finding a community is such an important part in your college search process, and today's panel is all about the community that you'll find here at Hamilton, and also the opportunities and resources that are available to you here. If any of you are interested in introducing yourselves, you're welcome to put in the chat where you're signing in from today. It'd be exciting to see where you all are joining us from today. But I want to turn it over to my colleagues as they are our panelists today, and they will be introducing themselves to you. I'm joined by Noelle Niznik and 2 students, Abigail and Will. Abigail, would you like to start with the introduction?
Sure. Hi, my name's Abigail Bernardo. I'm a 2024, which means I'm a senior or rising senior. I'm from New York City, born and raised Manhattan. I'm a computer science major with a double minor in creative writing and French. I'm involved in like 7 different clubs, including Plant Club, Board Game Club. That is my cat, Kia, sorry. And I'm also a part of the women's rowing team.
Hey, good afternoon, good morning, or good night. I'm William Velez, class of 26, so that means I'm a rising sophomore here at Hamilton. I'm planning to major in both theater and creative writing here. I'm from the Bronx in New York City. I was born in Puerto Rico, raised in the Bronx. But yeah, things I'm involved in on campus would be president of the Poetry Slam Club. I'm also a docent at the Weller Museum we have here at Hamilton. Also, I'm interested in like different sports clubs, like the basketball club, the boxing club, things like that. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixture between art and sort of sports for me. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Noelle Niznik. I use she, her pronouns, and I am most recently the interim director of our Alex advising program. I've been at Hamilton now for about 13 years. I've had some different hats that I've worn, everything from residential life to the Office of Student Activities. And now I'm working, this will be my 2nd year working with the great folks in our ALEX team, which stands for Advise, Learn, Experience. So to give you a quick overview of what that means and what my role is, I'm coordinating our team of advisors within ALEX, which connect to all other resources on campus. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get going. But that position in ALEX is basically a connection to all things academics, but also we work with the folks in Career Center, we work with folks in student life, and we work to connect everything so that students can kind of see all the different opportunities that exist at Hamilton. So think of it as sort of a concierge of sorts. And why I enjoy this work, I'm very fortunate to have been at Hamilton for a long time. I love the students that come to Hamilton. They are some of the best, some of the brightest folks. And I often find that I learn a lot from the students and hoping that, you know, I can help them as well. But it is a great place to be. There's great people. There is a great sense of community. And looking forward to hopefully welcoming some of you in the next year or 2.
Thank you. And I just wanted to acknowledge, thank you to all of you for introducing yourselves in the chat. It really does look like you're all joining us from around the world, from Libya to Los Angeles, to Illinois, to Maine, to Buffalo and Rochester, New York. So welcome to everyone. We are so glad that you are here. I also wanted to introduce one of my colleagues who's currently behind the scenes, who you are actually not, unfortunately, going to be able to see tonight. But I wanted to introduce Connor McManus. He is behind the scenes today. He's an assistant dean of admission, and he's also a recent Hamilton College graduate. Connor's behind the scenes. He will be monitoring the Q&A. So if you have questions as we move forward with our program today, please feel free to direct any questions that you might have specifically in the Q&A, and Connor will be monitoring those behind the scenes for us. So just to get started, we have a number of questions for our panelists to answer today, and we'll also be taking any audience questions that you all might have via Connor as well. So to get us started, I'd be interested in having each panelist answer the question of what drew you to Hamilton. So Noelle, would you like to start?
Sure. So I am someone who was born and raised in the upstate central New York area. And so right after my grad program, way back when, I ended up finding a position at Hamilton. And it was appealing because I did want to be closer to my family. And so that's kind of what got me here initially. But I had never really knew, even though I was from the area, I didn't really know much about Hamilton. I just knew it as this sort of college on the hill. And so I very quickly learned that it was a community that has so many wonderful people, resources, opportunities. It has truly been a wonderful experience to be able to be close to my family, but also feel like I'm sort of away from what I was used to growing up, just because there's people from all over the world that come to work and study at Hamilton. And I just love the community. I love sort of a lifelong learner too. So I love to learn from other people and just to be in a setting where, you know, folks are doing some really incredible research and doing some really wonderful writing. So I would say that the community and just the whole atmosphere of the college is what keeps me staying close to home.
Great. How about you, Will?
For me, I wanted to come in college as a writer, any college, right? Then I started to narrow down my choices. I'm come from a high school graduating class of 50 people. So I needed a small school. I couldn't go to this big, large university. And I also wanted to venture out of the city. So that narrows down my choices a lot. But the deal about Hamilton is, the special thing about it is it really focuses on communication. The ability as a writer to articulate yourself is important. It's so important. You have to sort of speak to different audiences. Hamilton teaches you that. You have to be able to network to different publishers. Hamilton teaches you that. But this is just my case, right? The thing is, it can also apply to a mathematics major. It can apply to a pre-med student. You need to be able, as a doctor, right, communicate different things to different types of people. So that's the versatility that comes with Hamilton. And with that versatility, you're met with so many well-spoken people in any discipline. And I knew that coming into Hamilton with the whole know thyself model. These people, they know what they want to do, the students, the faculty. And that's something I've appreciated over this past year and while I applied to Hamilton as well. Yeah.
Great. And Abigail?
I would have to say it has to do with the fact that my freshman year was during COVID, and Hamilton was one of the schools that was offering on-campus classes. I really was looking for a small liberal arts college because my high school is actually larger than Hamilton at 3,500 students, with Hamilton only being at 2,000. And so I really wanted that small, close-knit community. And I really found that here at Hamilton. But I'd also have to say the open curriculum, as somebody who had no idea what she really wanted to do going into college and only had like a very small idea, the ability to choose anything to like study was really just something I was looking forward to.
Great. And then my own response to this question is that when I was going through my college search process, I was really looking for a small liberal arts college with a strong sense of community where I would continue to be a part of that community even after I graduated, that I really wanted my college experience to be a long-lasting one and not just be 4 short years that I was a student. And so when I was going through the college search process, I visited Hamilton as a prospective student, and it was truly that sense of community that stood out. I knew that the alumni network was really strong, but just being on campus, this is the kind of place where people are just so friendly. They are so warm. They are so welcoming. And as a prospective student, I just noticed that everybody here smiles. When you walk around campus, this is the kind of place where people tend to look up. People are not looking down at the ground. They're not texting their friends as they walk around campus. People look up because they want to connect with each other and they want to engage. And even if you've never met someone before and you pass that person on a path on campus, you're probably going to be greeted with a really friendly hello and probably a wave too. And I knew that the connections that I would make as a student would continue even after I graduated. And so I was really excited to be a student at Hamilton. This was the place that I felt like was the most like home. I felt the most comfortable here. I felt like this was also the place that could support me the most, as I knew that I'd be growing a lot as a student. I graduated from Hamilton and I made a couple of other stops right after graduation, and I found my way back to Hamilton, and I'm so excited to now be back at my alma mater and working in the admission office and sharing my experience with prospective students. So one thing I think that often draws students to Hamilton is our open curriculum. And so Will and Abigail, I'm wondering if you can share your perspective about how the open curriculum appealed to you and how you've taken advantage of the flexibility that the open curriculum offers to you here.
I could start. So just like, first of all, like the open curriculum was just huge to me because the open curriculum allows you to pivot in ways you couldn't in any other college or university. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to come in as a government major. I found out that government wasn't for me. So eventually I found myself switching out from government to theater. And I've really found a passion for theater over this past year. But yeah, with the open curriculum, you have the ability to do that, to make that sort of pivot. And that's how it's really appealed to me. I wouldn't be able to explore much of theater if I were in any other school, because I would be stuck in government. And I will say this about the open curriculum too. Your major is going to comprise about 33% of your classes. The other 67%, anything you really want with open curriculum. It's really, really cool. But yeah.
I would have to say the flexibility allowed me to explore literally the craziest courses. I thought I was gonna focus more on psychology and creative writing, even though I did come in undecided because those were 2 courses I really enjoyed in high school. But after taking a few courses, I decided, why don't I take a computer science course? I met with my academic advisor, we sat about it, we talked about it, and I took the course, fell in love with it, and then declared as a computer science major. Oh my goodness, sorry, that's my cat. And then it also allowed me the flexibility to go abroad, which is one of my favorite semesters here on campus, was to go abroad in one of our 3 cultural immersion programs in France, which is really great.
That's great. So as a follow-up to that, actually, Will and Abigail, can you share what has been your most favorite class that you've taken so far during your time here?
I'll go first because this one course sticks out. It was a course in literature called Indians, Aliens, and Others. And I thought at first it was a sci-fi course because I got really excited, really love sci-fi. But then when I showed up to the class, it turns out it was a class about the process of otherization and how people in the world are still facing it today and how we as a community can counter that. And my professor, she came up to me after class and she's like, I could tell you thought this was just a sci-fi course. Here's the drop form. And I said, no, this sounds so much more interesting. And I still am in contact with that professor, just talking about either subjects that related to that course or just anything that I have on my mind.
Great.
I'm sure it's going to change next year because I'm taking a poetry workshop and I'm naturally a poet. But last year it had to be my introductory to creative writing workshop. So basically what we did was we wrote a manuscript, or we wrote like a tiny short story, right? About 5 pages, 5-6 pages, something like that. And we turn it in. This was last semester. We turn it in, we discuss it. we dedicate a day for each student and their story and discuss their story as a class, but the student who turned it in, they can't say anything. So they just taking feedback, taking criticism of their piece. It was just really enlightening to me as a writer, as somebody who wants to like continue and pursue writing. It's nice to get those extra pairs of eyes, including the professor. So yeah, that's definitely got to be my favorite course thus far. But really, the deeper you go into your discipline, you're gonna find a lot of specific courses dedicated to you. And I can't wait till next year. I'm gonna take the poetry workshop. I'm gonna do that with poetry, and that's just gonna be amazing. Yeah,
That's great. So let's talk a little bit about the relationship that students have between faculty and staff and students. So what about the support that you receive from faculty in your classes and also with the advising program that we have here? And I think Hamilton really emphasizes advising in part of the open curriculum. But Noelle, I know you started to talk a little bit about ALEX in your introduction. I'm wondering if you can explain ALEX, perhaps if you want to add any more details, and also about the support that the program provides.
Absolutely. So ALEX is a relatively new program, as I think I mentioned in my opening. It is going to be starting its third year, and we phase in a class every year. So as of this coming fall, each ALEX advisor will have juniors, sophomores, and first years in their cohorts. And by next year, we'll have all students. That doesn't mean that if a senior doesn't need additional support, that we won't support them. We absolutely will. But in terms of you'll be assigned as of next fall, everyone will have an ALEX advisor, because again, it's brand new. It's this rollout that was part of our strategic plan at Hamilton and the Because Hamilton campaign that's wanted to invest in more of a holistic advising network. So again, ALEX stands for Advise, Learn, Experience, and there are different arms of ALEX. So I'm with the Advise arm, but then our Learn piece is the academic resource centers on campus. So the Oral Communication Center, the Language Center, the Writing Center, and the Qualitative Symbolic Reasoning Center on campus. And those are staffed with professional staff and student tutors. The EX of ALEX is experiential learning, which we find is a very critical point in your development as a student, is getting those experiences outside of the classroom. And so we have folks that work with social justice in our Levitt Center. We have folks that work with students wanting to do community outreach. We have an Office of Experiential Learning that kind of focuses on sort of all the other programs. We have study away programs in New York and DC. So it is a network, a coordinated network of on-campus resources and advisors, and we work to ensure that students have access to every opportunity that will help them thrive. So the idea with ALEX advising is your advisor gets to know you, figures out a little bit more about what your interests are, what type of experience you want to have at Hamilton, and then we make sure that you're aware of the opportunities and resources that connect to that, because each student is going to have a little bit of a different desire or path. It's not like sort of like the open curriculum. There is not really a cookie cutter way of doing this. And so the idea with this ALEX advising is to make sure that students know about all the things and to kind of follow them through the 4 years. So the only other thing I'll say, and then I'll pass it to the next person, is just that each student will have 3 advisors. When they come in, they'll have a faculty advisor, an ALEX advisor, and a career advisor. And that may seem a little bit overwhelming at first, but we will be very intentional about explaining to you who to go to for what, but also just know that they're just meant to be an equitable opportunity for all students to have access to meaningful relationships with staff and faculty to help guide them through all aspects of the college experience, from academics to experiences to career. So yeah, happy to answer more questions later on about that, but yeah, that's basically a summary of what we do.
Great, thank you. And just as a reminder to all of you on the other end here today, that you're welcome to direct questions our way into the Q&A here on Zoom. But Abigail and Will, I'd love to turn it over to you. Can you talk about relationships that have been really meaningful for you with some of your professors, or in particular about your faculty advisor and the relationship of what that looks like for you?
Yeah, I still remember my academic advisor from first year, as it is one of your first year course professors. He was one of my literature professors, and he's probably the smartest literature professor I've ever met, but don't tell the other ones. And he was such a joy. He helped me throughout, like, getting from computer science into that major. And then when it transitioned to my major advisor, he's my new major advisor, is my closest friend on campus in a faculty member. I'm very sad he is unfortunately leaving us, but he has been helping me throughout all of my 3 years that he's been my advisor, and he's just always there. If I have the smallest question, if I have a question about my my schedule, if I want to change a course, he's always there. And sometimes we just chat about our cats. I have one, he has four, so we always like to share photos of them.
As for me, theater department professors, they're really some interesting characters, and that's why I love them. So the chair of the theater department, Mark Cryer, he is someone who draws people into theater. He's a professor in its very definition. He sort of likes to draw students into theater through like his sort of antics. He's just a very funny guy. Yeah, he talks a lot about his car. He has three things that he loves: his tenure, his car, and his wife. Lets you know. But yeah, he always talks about his really nice BMW car. And it's not like it's not in the braggadocious way. It's just like he genuinely loves his car like a child. But yeah, a really great guy. One of my favorite professors, and my academic advisor, who's also a faculty member. Her name is Margie. Her full name is Margaret Thixton, but she doesn't go by like Professor Thixton. She likes the first name basis, really casual. But yeah, she goes by Margie. But yeah, we always love to discuss, what's the next read, right? Because we're both sort of literature heads, in the sense. But yeah, we always sort of get together, and with these sort of academic advisors, you're going to sort of plan classes, and I love planning classes with Margie because she knows what's in my best interest, always. But yeah, that's been my experience. It's been great with both professors and academic advisors, all advisors too. Yeah.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about support that's available for our students. Noelle, as an ALEX advisor, one of your roles is to help connect students with resources around campus. Can you talk about some of the resources that you're connecting students with?
Absolutely. So the academic resources, I mentioned a bit before, we work very closely to connect students and encourage students to utilize the Writing Center, the QSR Center, the Language Center, and the Oral Communication Center. We encourage it primarily because there's so many, again, resources should be utilized on campus. We don't want there to be a stigma that you only would use these resources if you are struggling. It's meant to only enhance. So certainly there are students that maybe are having a harder time in some classes, and that's a great resource. But there's also students that, for instance, will go to the Writing Center with a first draft of a paper, and they just want someone else to take a peek at it and give them some feedback. And so we make a lot of referrals to our colleagues in those centers. We also work very closely with the student life side of Hamilton. So whether that's me making a referral, if a student needs more of a support in terms of mental health, we will refer students over to our colleagues in the counseling center. If they're willing to go, we have that option. We also have, if there's a situation where a student is having some trouble outside of Hamilton, maybe back at home, we refer to case managers on campus that help students navigate if they need to take some time away from school, or just a couple, a week off. They help the student have a plan as to how to do that, because as you can imagine, a lot of times there's stress that comes along with the idea of missing any part of the semester, just because there's a lot to be done. So we work across campus with folks just to make sure students do feel supported in every way possible. Honestly, that's something that I think Hamilton does really, really well, is that, students are seen and there are people that care. And so when we do refer students for any sort of support, academic or otherwise, it is coming from a place of just wanting you to succeed and to be able to be there for you. So that is essentially what we do. Is we're a good first stop. If someone's like, I don't know, where to start, here's what I need, or where I'm struggling, or just some feedback, and then we can help point students so they don't have to spend hours searching the Hamilton website to who to speak to. We will help connect them to the appropriate folks.
Great, thank you. So I think my next question is actually for both of you, Abigail and Will. Noelle mentioned the academic resource centers. So our writing center, our oral communication center, and our quantitative and symbolic reasoning center. I'm wondering about whether you've used these resources and how those experiences have been.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
you want to go for it, Will?
Yeah, I can't say personally that I've used the quantitative symbolic reasoning center too much. But I'm someone who's definitely used the writing center a whole bunch. Because as like a creative writing major, you're very swiftly humbled. Yeah, professors, they will red pen your essay. And this is the sort of realistic sort of side of college, right? You come into college as like, a great writer in high school, but then professors, they give a whole new depth to your writing. But I use the writing center as an extra pair of eyes right before the professor sees my paper. They work on things from an outline to an almost final draft. Sometimes I'd bring in outlines and have no idea where to go with the paper. But yeah, they sort of help me craft a sort of an outline, right? For something like a traditional essay. In the past, this past semester, I've also brought in a manuscript, sort of one of those 5-page short stories. I brought one of those in, and I just got a second pair of eyes, just really useful. They talk about like technical details that I might have missed, and also sort of directional sort of things for my short story too, as far as like comprehension goes. But yeah, a huge resource, the Writing Center. Also, the Oral Communication Center was a huge a huge deal for me, especially in my first semester, right? I was just getting acclimated to the theater department. I was like preparing a monologue for a final. And yeah, I went to the Oral Communication Center, got some help with that, and eventually got my monologue tidied up, and I did really good thanks to the Oral Communication Center and the extra pair of ears provided by the Oral Communication Center just to get my monologue right, which I really appreciated.
I have used the QSR Center so frequently, especially with my 100 level computer science courses. They often have tutoring groups where a TA of usually a junior in that major will come in and explain parts of like the code specifically for computer science that like we didn't understand, and they'll help us work through our problems in the program. And in terms of the Writing Center, I think I'm there probably every other week. I feel like they should have a plaque of my face up there. It's like I'm always there. But I've gone there for the smallest things of, I don't really know if I want to include this paragraph in my paper, or I've finished my paper and I really want them to have a second pair of eyes. And I actually have one of my closest friends who works there, and I try to meet with her because I know she will rip my paper to shreds and put it all back together in the best way possible, because she is one of the best at they all are, because they are recommended by faculty members. They are vetted and the best of us.
Great. So I think sometimes making the transition from high school to college can be a daunting task. So I'm wondering, how did you bridge that gap, Will and Abigail, and begin to find your place on campus? Could you please share your orientation experience and then also how you began to get involved in different clubs and activities here on campus?
Yeah, I unfortunately didn't have the traditional orientation experience due to COVID, since we did have to limit the number of people in our groups indoors and sometimes outdoors. We kind of just had a lot of exploration around campus, which was honestly so much fun. We had a treasure hunt where I think my team came in first, though I could be biased in my memory. But I always just remember feeling that sense of community from day one, even in such like terrible times. And Hamilton really made an effort to make sure that I felt, and like all of my first year peers felt like the Hamily that we are nowadays.
Yeah, I could talk about my orientation experience. It was really awesome. So I went to one of our experimental adventure trips, if I'm not mistaken. These are trips dedicated to like get you acclimated with careers. So I went to the theater one. It's called Curtain Call. We toured different theaters. We spoke to like different actors and different sort of crews. So I really, I really fell in love with theater. I've said it like 3 times this far, but like, that was probably the moment, that orientation trip, just with those 10 other students. And these 10 other students who are surrounding me, they're just huge theater geeks. And I'm like, I want to be one of these people, because it is a beautiful sort of concentration here at Hamilton and just a beautiful profession overall. But yeah, that's sort of my orientation experience. I'm still friends with some of my orientation sort of group members. But yeah, I got involved in campus. I try to get off the bat, right? I applied as a museum docent. I got denied the first semester, but for spring semester of last year, I got the job, right? So it's just persistence. Also, I did Entitled at Large, which is our on-campus theater group. They run student ran productions. They're really good. These productions student ran. But yeah, I do Entitled at Large. I'm also president of the Poetry Slam Club. So the former president, she was a senior and she had to sort of hand it down to someone, and it ended up being me. So yeah, I'm president of the Poetry Slam Club, which is really, really cool. And it's a nice way to get involved on campus. And like last spring semester, I got involved in a lot of club sports too, like namely club basketball. Huge presence. It's going to be a huge presence on campus hopefully next year, as they sort of grow and expand the basketball club. But yeah, I really enjoyed just getting involved, especially last spring semester.
Well, do you have anything to add about orientation or student activities, especially considering your previous experiences?
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine.
I'm so sorry. I thought she said Will, Noel.
Oh,
Sorry,
no,
go ahead.
You're totally fine. Yeah, I guess I would just say that Hamilton does a really great job in orienting our students to campus. Since I started to where we are now, all of the orientation trips allow all first year students to go on the trips. When I first started, it was a pre-orientation sort of opt-in, but now because of the college saw the value in having students all get to have an experience where you're with a small group and then a few leaders, it really kind of is just a common experience for students to then reflect upon for the, later on in their college career. I mean, you will see that students will keep in touch with students that were in their orientation group. It's not to say you'll be best friends with everyone, but it's just a nice way to kind of have a common experience to think back upon. In terms of the student activities at Hamilton, it is just awesome the amount of things that are going on at any given time. You just have to be willing to kind of look around. A lot of students will say they get too many emails. So I would encourage just kind of looking around. There's posters all the time and different social media outlets that advertise things that are going on. At the beginning of the school year, there's a club fair, and clubs will be present and tell you all about what they do, and you can sign up to be part of their like group me's or listservs or different things to kind of keep in touch. So in some ways, I feel the sky is the limit in terms of if you have something you're interested in, there's likely a club for it or an interest group of students that want to get together and do the thing. So I think Will gave some really great examples of all the sorts of things from club sports to writing and anything in between. So yeah, there's a lot going on. And I think, it's just kind of figuring out what you want to try. I encourage you to try something new, but then also like look for things that are just things that you enjoy doing.
Great. So about a third of our students are involved in varsity athletics, and 2/3 of students are involved in athletics in some way, whether that's our varsity program, our intramural program, or our club program. Abigail has actually rowed with the crew team. And so I'm wondering, Abigail, if you can share what it's like to be a student athlete at Hamilton. What support do you receive from your team, from your coach? What's Hamilton's approach to athletics as a Division III NESCAC, New England Small College Athletic Conference institution?
Yeah, I would say that it's fairly balanced with student athlete life. I've never felt too pressured with academics or too pressured with my athletics. My coaches have been great. They're always like very understanding if I need to go and study for a quiz or an exam. And it's always so nice to see, like, especially with the crew where we'll have to go away from campus to go perform our regattas. It's always so nice to see like the large groups of Hamilton students that end up joining us at our races, which is like really cool because I never thought that people would travel like 45 minutes to the canal to see us row, but there they are. It's really just a really nice feeling to just finish the like across the finish line and see like a bunch of people cheering you on. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, I can see a number of questions that have been submitted in the Q&A. So we'll go ahead and tackle some of these questions that you in our audience have submitted. So thank you so much for submitting those. I see a couple of questions that are along the theme of sort of pursuing your academic interests, whether that's as a major or a double major or a major and a minor. Can anyone talk about what that experience is like pursuing in depth multiple academic areas of interest?
Yeah, I can talk about how transitioning from creative writing and psychology and then to computer science kind of like worked, where I met with my advisor. He planned out like all of the courses that I had to take, as majors and minors do have certain requirements. Despite the open curriculum, we keep that in mind. So like I have like 5 different elective options for one requirement. And especially with the ability to go abroad, I was able to meet with my advisor and the Global Learning Office to figure out which courses I could get credit for and which I couldn't. I actually ended up completing my French minor while abroad at a French university, which was really just a cool opportunity to take courses and then be able to use them towards my diploma.
As for me, I mentioned I started off in government, and I found out that it wasn't for me. But eventually, I found this tandem between theater and creative writing. So they sort of intermingle with one another. They're basically stories being either written or acted out orally. And even acting, it goes beyond sort of oral communication, and goes down to gestures, physical sort of gestures as well. And I've really appreciated that. So I've always looked at something now when I'm writing something down, I'm like, how would that be acted out? How would the actor feel if I wrote something like that? And it just gives me a whole new dimension to my writing, which I really appreciate. You sort of find the connections between these different disciplines. But yeah, especially in the humanities side of things, I like to stick with the humanities. In the arts, I don't like to venture out to STEM. A lot of students may feel differently. But yeah, I sort of keep it sort of tight. I want my classes to for me to be able to see the connection between the classes that I'm taking, if that makes sense. But yeah, I've also looked at like study abroad opportunities. They have this program in Tuscany, Italy from Accademia dell'Arte. So basically you can study expressionism in Italy for theater, which is really nice because I've just gotten into theater, and it's like, it's this great program that'll get me introduced. And I can also go to Italy and sort of learn some of the languages and the culture over there. But yeah, these opportunities just always exist here at Hamilton, which is really nice. But yeah, that's just an example of like the route and sort of the process I go into, like looking at my classes. Yeah.
Great. So there have been a couple of questions in the Q&A that have the theme of housing. And I think that these are great questions because I think the fact that Hamilton is an entirely residential campus adds to the really strong sense of community that we have. The fact that you are living and learning together here on campus with your peers for 4 years really does strengthen that really strong sense of community that we have. So I'm wondering if we can spend a little bit of time talking about how the housing system works here.
Yeah, as someone who's a first year last year, I'll explain the survey that they're going to give you. So as soon as you're ready to matriculate, as soon as you're committed to Hamilton, they provide a survey. And in the survey, they ask you questions like, what time do you like to go to sleep? What type of music do you listen to? Are you messy in your room? So based off of your answers, they'll assign both the roommate and the dorm situation for you. And so yeah, my situation was great. Your roommate's not supposed to be your best friend the first year. You're supposed to be able to comfortably coexist with them, and that was my situation to a T. But yeah, I would say the dorm situation is very scattered. A lot of colleges and universities, they have like a secluded spot, where all their dorms are. Hamilton, it's pretty much all over the place. But yeah, that's sort of the situation. We have dorms down the hill. We have dorms on one side of campus, dorms on the other side of campus. But yeah, my residential situation was really great. I loved it last year, and I'm in a special housing situation this upcoming year. And I'm in a filmmaker's house. So basically, it's comprised of students who are just interested in filmmaking, and it's a literal house. So there's like an array of options, especially for upperclassmen as far as housing goes, for sure. But yeah, I'll end there, and I'll let Abigail take it over.
Yeah, I will have to say that housing does get a little bit nicer as you become an upperclassman. I am currently in Babbitt, which is one of the dorms which has suites. So that has a common room attached with a kitchen for about 6 rooms, doubles and singles. I'm in a double, but unfortunately I don't have a roommate, or maybe fortunately because I have the roommate of my cat. But I actually really enjoyed the first year housing situation where you are put with mostly other first years, either in a completely first year dorm or on first year reserved floors. So that way you really get that sense of community within your first year peers. And then I was in South, which is 3rd and 4th floors are first years, and then the 1st and 2nd are upperclassmen. And so I was able to interact even in like COVID times with students who I would never have had classes with, because as a first year I wouldn't. But it was just really nice way to like get that sense of like community in such a small space.
Noelle, do you have anything to add?
I think they did a really good job. I'm glad that you highlighted the specialty housing options, because I think that's really a neat way for students to develop community among a common interest. And I will say that how I understand it's working is that each year they take applications for people to submit what they would like the theme of the house to be. So it's not always going to be the same housing example. So there might be, I mean, certainly you can renew, and if it's popular, but then there are different things that come along. And so it's been something that I think students have really enjoyed. But there, so many different types of housing to choose from the suites, as Abigail mentioned, to there's houses where you have a bedroom and shared bathrooms, and then the traditional dorm style housing. But campus is fully residential, and it's a walkable campus. So first years you do not have a car on campus, but you can get around pretty well. It's not, unmanageable to walk from place to place. So yeah, I think that's a good kind of overview.
I think it's so great that we have such a variety in housing options available, that you really get to choose the housing configuration that you feel will be the best fit for you. And because you're living with your peers, everybody's required to live on campus for all 4 years. And because you're living with your peers, you really do form lifelong friendships. You really do form really strong relationships with the people in your residence hall and really throughout the entire community, because everybody's right here on the Hill on campus for 4 years. Another question that we've gotten in the Q&A is whether we can talk a little bit about social life at Hamilton. So Abigail and Will, what do you typically do on the weekend? For anyone who wants to jump in and talk about whether we have Greek life and whether it's a big part of campus, and also what are some of our traditions?
Yeah, I could begin. So Greek life, about 30% of our students are involved in Greek life, either in a fraternity or sorority. But yeah, it isn't the hugest thing on campus. In 1984, Hamilton sort of disassociated itself from Greek life, but it still exists as its own entity. They have houses down the hill. But yeah, they have their own houses. And the thing about these Greek sort of fraternities and sororities is that they host events, but those events are open to the entire community. So yeah, Hamilton also has big social events through student programming, which are they take place in our events barn. It's this really nice barn where basically we have all of our big events. We have first year experiences as well, like a first year formal, just as an example. But yeah, big sort of student programming events include like things like a casino night, bingo night. We had a mechanic bull riding station in the event spawn last year. Students love that. I love that. I have a video of me just riding a mechanic bull. I did pretty good. But yeah, just things like that are just examples of social life, just to keep students on campus during the weekends. And these first year events and these big student programming events, they happen typically on Fridays and Saturdays. But yeah, students really have great incentives just to stay on campus and enjoy social life. And yeah, a lot of social life is gonna appear in like the form of your classes. So I'm friends with a lot of theater majors, just because I spend a lot of time with them in classes and courses, and you get to know these students especially well. But if that doesn't happen, you also have this tight-knit community because everybody really knows each other because we're so small. But yeah, you always find a space, you always find a circle. I know everybody else says, every other college or university is going to say it, but especially at Hamilton, because we're such a tight-knit community. I can't emphasize that enough, really. But yeah, you will find a social scene that fits you, where you can be your genuine self. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say that on the weekends, there's always going to be something to do. At the beginning of the day, you get sent a email that usually has like 15 different events going on. A lot of them are like either sports events, clubs. Sometimes there's like open dinners and lunches. We also often have food trucks, which is sometimes my favorite time of the day. And sometimes students will go down into the village of Clinton through the jitney or by car if they have, or they might go to New Hartford, where there's the movie theater and the bowling alley. But almost always I'm on campus like all hours of the day because there's just something going on campus. And then I would have to say my favorite tradition would be Feb Festival, which is a festival in February when it gets cold, because it is central New York. We do get some snow. I do believe we got about 2 feet last year. I'm not too sure, but like that's total feet. And that's usually just a time where people want to stay inside, but we have all of these events going on to get that sense of community in such a cold time. I think we had a chili cook-off, Battle of the Bands, snowshoe racing, a huge snowball fight. I have decked people in the face. I have been decked in the face. It's really just a great time to feel like that sense of community in a cold time.
And I guess I'll just add, in terms of social life, I am partial, being that I did the student activities gig for quite a long time. There is a ton of things to do. At the same time, you know, students will always kind of say, what is there to do? And that, yeah, it becomes a sort of organic thing that happens among peers. So we can put on as many programs as we can think of, but it has to come from students that want it. So if you see surveys go out and they ask, what are you looking to see? You should absolutely fill those out, because we take those that feedback very seriously. The Campus Activities Board is a really popular programming board on campus. They bring everything from big concerts to acoustic coffee houses, comedians, and everything in between. Our big traditions like our Feb Fest, which Abigail was talking about, the chili cook-off and the snow sculptures. We do a fall fest in the village of Clinton in the like late September, early October, to get students off the hill. We call it the Off the Hill Challenge, and students get to go and check out the different local stores and some different local foods. There's a lot of places not far from campus that are things that you'll learn the names of, like the Clinton Cider Mill, and that's a place that people can walk to and get a nice hot or cold cup of cider, and a cider mill donut is really popular. So there's a lot of little cute little things that you'll start to hear about, and you just kind of have to keep your eyes peeled and be willing to try different new things. But yeah, I would say there's not really a lack of things to do. It's just figuring out what it is that you want to do, how you want to spend your time.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. And just to add from my own experience here as a student, I think what's really exciting about being in more of a rural location is that students are able to really come up with their own fun. That because you are here on a residential campus, you are really creating fun with your friends. People really do tend to stay on campus. They tend to go for really extended periods of time without leaving campus because of all that's going on here. And sometimes students, when they leave campus, they actually then come back with the sense that they've missed out on something, because there are so many activities and events that are going on here that students are really excited to participate in. But then also you will get creative in other ways that you spend your time. This is definitely a campus-centered community where people are just really excited to be together here on campus for 4 years. I do see that there are a number of questions in the chat and the Q&A about our location. I think we've just talked a little bit about our location, but Will and Abigail, do you have anything to add about Clinton or about the experiences that you've had in the surrounding communities?
Yeah, first of all, I love Clinton because Clinton is like this little town with a bunch of these small little businesses, and I really appreciate because they know you as soon as you go in there. Like you can go in there just a few times, they remember you. My favorite store has got to be the thrift shop we have down in Clinton. You know, I love to go clothes shopping. I love thrifting, and that is definitely one of my favorite stores of all time. And the people there are just amazing. The people in both in the stores and the Clinton community, just a huge, you know, fun-loving, inclusive community. They really welcome anyone in their stores. They really welcome anyone in their community, and it's just amazing down in Clinton. I will point out though that Clinton is a small village. We also have a bigger it's a bit of a bigger town in New Hartford, where you have different malls, different things like that. It's a town, and then the sort of city right near us is Utica. That's the big city near us. But yeah, that's sort of like the breakdown as far as like travel goes. So you want to go out somewhere, that's sort of where your mindset would go. But yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely adore the cider mill donuts. Every September, I'm always begging my friends to take me, and that way I'll treat them to like donuts. I get a dozen and then a pint of cider, and it lasts me about a week because I just eat it all in one day. But I would have to say that one of my favorite stories that I've heard with the connection of Hamilton and Clinton is during the time of COVID, when some students couldn't go away back to their houses. They were on campus, but Clinton, all of the different shops and like restaurants made individual care packages for each student. And then when those restaurants were struggling to reopen, Hamilton helped with outdoor seating and creating a space, just strengthening that bond between the village and our community. It's just, honestly, coming from New York City, it's probably my favorite place, despite living in such a New York City-like place.
Okay, unfortunately, we are running short on time, but I have two more questions that I would love each of you to respond to. Could you please tell our group of prospective students here today, what is your favorite thing about Hamilton?
I would, even though it's cliche to say it, it's the community, the sense that as soon as I stepped onto campus, even when I was touring, I toured my sophomore year of high school because my sister's older than me, and I still felt that sense of community. And then coming to campus, I'm now a part of that family. We like putting H's in front of words, so H, family. But I've made lifelong friends. I'm still in contact with the girls in my first year suite. I'm still friends with the people who I went abroad with, even though they are from different colleges as well. But I will always cherish the years I've had at Hamilton.
For me, so far, it's got to be the faculty / the classes. Like, it's a bit of a mix between that, because these are unlike any classes I've ever taken. They're very discussion based, very sort of interactive. Ideas bounce off of students, ideas bounce off of professors to students. It's a really great collaborative environment where I feel like my mind's growing, and I feel like I'm getting better at what I really want to do, both in my life and in my professional life, right? I feel myself growing every day. When classes aren't available, like during the summer, I feel myself growing every day on campus, because you sort of speak to the people, and these are different people from across the world, across the country. You just feel yourself growing as a person here. But if I had to centralize it, if I had to narrow it down, it's got to be the academics as well as the professors. Yeah.
I think for me, it's seeing the students' transformation from when they first get to Hamilton to when they graduate. And what I mean by that is I see students come in and have conversations in their first year and kind of what they think they want to do, or what sort of drew them in. And then I sort of see them take these different paths and try different things and really sort of grow, as I think some of you were saying, Will was saying, you're growing all the time. And to actually see that sort of transformation and then watch the students cross the stage, I feel very, almost like a proud parent would feel, I imagine, in that you can just see someone that maybe started off really shy and kind of, not super confident in their writing or their speaking. And then all of a sudden they've done all these really cool things that they maybe never even thought existed. And now they're standing there senior year and they're reflecting back on all these wonderful relationships and opportunities that they had, and then sort of springboard into opportunities post-graduation through our alumni network. And so it's just really awesome to sort of see that growth from when they come in to when they leave. So that's it for me.
And then last question for all of you is, what piece of advice would you offer our prospective students as they are beginning their college application process?
I would say, in terms of Hamilton's application process, which I'm very familiar with, definitely sign up for an interview if you have the availability to do so. Interviews are currently all virtual. You'll either be with an admission officer or a senior admissions fellow like me. So I'll hopefully be able to see a few of you. And it's really just a great opportunity to get like a 3D perspective of a student, because obviously we will be receiving your transcripts and all of your like the physical 2D perspective of you, but we want to get to know you as a student and like want to learn more about you. So yeah, I would really recommend the interviews.
My little cheat code would be to focus on the essay. I'm so biased right now, but I'm a writer. But yeah, it's got to be the essay for me. Because the essay is a chance for you to give something outside of academics, something outside of extracurriculars, outside of the high school sort of atmosphere, to give yourself, to give a piece of your raw self to the admissions officer. And you have to find something really special to write a meaningful essay, and you'll find it, and it's just like a spark in your head, and it's really beautiful. But yeah, it is a really nice piece of the application process. A lot of the admissions officers, I'd imagine, really appreciate. And if you get a good story from a student, it really adds and really strengthens both your character and your chances of getting into college. But that's just my sort of opinion.
And I think for me, I would say, and the application process for college is similar to, when you're applying for a job, right? It's a two-way process. So you're looking to find a good fit for you. And then Hamilton is looking, to see which students in their applications and interviews are a good fit for us. And so, just kind of getting really familiar with what it is that you like, what, what type of a community you're looking for, what type of a setting. All of that is important. And I think asking lots of questions, the fact that you're here tonight for this panel and just getting more information, that is huge, because it's just going to give you more knowledge to make an informed decision. And so by all means, like if you're liking what you're hearing, please, definitely apply and take to heart the tips that both Abigail and Will have shared, because, you never know. And it would, be awesome to welcome all of you, many of you, to join our community.
Thank you. So I just wanted to say that this was just the first of several virtual sessions that we will continue to offer throughout the summer and the fall. Some of the sessions actually that we have planned coming up throughout the summer and fall will actually focus on certain parts of the application, such as the application essay and also the interview, which were two tips that Will and Abigail offered. But keep your eyes out for this information in your email. More details will be coming to you. It will also be posted on our website. You can go to hamilton.edu/visit to learn more about opportunities to engage with us. But unfortunately for today, we have run out of time. I feel like we could easily keep on going and telling you all about our community. But thank you for all of you on the other end for joining us today. Thank you to Abigail and Will and Noelle for sharing your great insight. And thank you to Connor for responding to all the questions and monitoring the Q&A for us. You will again find more information about additional opportunities to connect with us in the months ahead, but best wishes to all of you as you move forward in your college search process. And thanks again to everyone for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone.